Vacations will never be the same. Welcome to the theme parks of Universal Orlando Resort. With spectacular hotels and more, Universal Orlando offers an entire week of vacation awesome. Visit universalorlando.com.
BC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah.
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 26. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. The high going to be 51. Tonight and overnight clear, low 34. And then Thursday, sunshine, high 52. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 40 and partly cloudy in Muncie up in Rockland County. It's 45 and partly cloudy in East Brunswick over in New Jersey. And it's 43 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Mayor Adams will not like the results of a new poll. What will 23andMe do with the DNA they collected now that they're shutting down? Another New York funeral home mixes up bodies and caskets. Men dressed as utility workers back at it again. And why are seals showing up on the sand at Coney Island? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. We'll start with a story that was breaking overnight. Russia and Ukraine reaching what apparently seems to be a limited ceasefire deal.
According to a White House statement, the two countries have agreed to stop fighting in the Black Sea and will work to agree to halt any strikes on energy infrastructure. It comes after 3 days of negotiations in Saudi Arabia as Ukrainian and Russian delegations met with U.S. mediators separately. Ukrainian President Zelensky said the ceasefire in the Black Sea is already in effect. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Food poisoning now being eyed in the tragic death of former New York Yankee Brett Gardner's 14-year-old son, Miller. Authorities ruling out yesterday asphyxiation, which was originally reported as the cause of death, and warned it actually could take months before they say for certain why the teenager died last Friday at the high-end resort in their country. Costa Rica's judicial investigation, police said an initial examination of Miller Gardner's body found that his airways were not obstructed. So the results, these toxicology reports that are being done, autopsy, may not be available for 2 to 3 months due to the high demand, they say right now, in Costa Rica for autopsies in other cases. Brett Gardner, his wife Jessica, their sons Miller and Hunter were vacationing at this upscale Arianas Del Mar beachfront and rainforest resort outside a national park there when he was found dead in his bed on Friday. I will point out that the resort putting out a statement last night saying, obviously, they feel for the family, but want people to know that the family had not eaten at the restaurant on the resort for Tuesday. Tuesday was the last time they ate at the restaurant, and they were, of course, sending that message out to others who might be thinking about coming to this high-end resort for a vacation. Of course, Brett Gardner, the fabulous baseball player, he played outfield for the Bronx Bombers 14 years, of course, was popular fixture on the Yankees until his retirement back in the 2021 season. 5:03, New York City's Democratic mayoral primary is just 14 weeks away. So where do the candidates stand today?
Governor Cuomo is way ahead in the latest mayor's race poll, with Mayor Eric Adams a distant fourth.
I got a whole lot of gas still in the tank, and I'm looking forward to New Yorkers to get past the noise and say, let's look at the numbers.
The Honan Strategy Group has those numbers. In fact, it shows 41% of Democrats would choose Cuomo right now, with 18% voting for Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. In third place, City Comptroller Brad Lander with 8% and Mayor Eric Adams with 6%. The primary is on June 24th. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
6%, ouch. With genetic testing company 23andMe filing for bankruptcy, privacy experts are warning the DNA of millions of people may be up for sale now.
Pay careful, close attention to what happens next. Be careful about clicking through anything that looks like a change in the privacy statement.
Yeah, that's Harvard law professor Glenn Cohen, the company known for its saliva-based test kits that offer customers a look into their genetic ancestry, assures the security of customer data. Still, there's no guarantee, by the way. The stored data includes information like genetic predispositions to health information, If you've stored your saliva sample and DNA with 23andMe and wish to change that preference, apparently you can do so in the account settings under preferences. But, of course, you just don't know what they're going to do with all this.
I'm the California Attorney General. I'm also a consumer. It's a decision that's best for me to delete today.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta is incredibly concerned about the 23andMe bankruptcy.
The private, sensitive data and information of 14 million consumers who have used 23andMe could get into the wrong hands.
Yeah, I always understood the appeal of people who wanted to connect family members, find out their family history, but the idea that you're handing DNA to a corporation, I never got that. Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett under fire for mocking Governor Greg Abbott, who is confined to a wheelchair after a tragic accident in his 20s. This is a video from some comments she made over the weekend at a human rights campaign dinner in Los Angeles.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
Yeah, you heard her right. She was calling him Governor Hot Wheels. The Dallas area Democrat made the comments at that dinner in Los Angeles over the weekend. Video gone viral. Senator John Cornyn of Texas calling the comment disgraceful and said if it were made by a Republican, it would be all over TV stations. Well, this comment is everywhere today.
And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess, honey.
Yeah, Crockett's office has not responded to a request for a comment. We have not heard from the governor's office either. 506, Luigi Mangione asking for a laptop now in jail to view documents related to his case and maybe answer emails from his fan club. No, I don't think it's that. But it is view documents related to his case.
Mangione is accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. According to a court filing, Mangione's lawyers asked if he could be given a laptop solely to look at documents. He would not be able to communicate with anyone through the laptop, and it would not be able to connect to the internet or run any kind of entertainment. His legal team said that there isn't enough time for Mangione to review the information with his defense team. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Now, by the way, that's not unusual. There are other people in the same prison as him in Brooklyn who have been granted the same thing, a laptop, so they can look through court documents. So if he gets granted one, and they'll argue that if others are, he should be as well, you shouldn't be totally shocked. WABC News Time 508, President Trump reiterating his support for his intelligence officials amid this texting scandal where it seems the Atlantic editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, was somehow accidentally entered into this text chat with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the National Intelligence Director, Tulsi Gabbard, Marco Rubio, Mike Walls, where he was able to view information about plans to shoot down Houthi rebels. So here was the president talking about this yesterday.
We have an amazing group. Our national security now is stronger than it's ever been. We have had a very, very successful, numerous attacks on that area. These are people that shoot down ships.
Now, the platform they were using to communicate with each other is a app called Signal. It's sort of like WhatsApp. And so now the president's suggesting maybe they should figure out a different way to chat with each other.
There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use.
Mr. President, you asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president.
So there's still this pushback that the story from Jeffrey Goldberg is just not true. But Democrats, of course, seeing an opening, and they haven't had much of an opening since President Trump has taken office, want to discuss this more. So Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly drilling down on the story with the CIA Director John Ratcliffe. This was there was supposed to be a meeting, Senate hearing with intelligence officials yesterday anyways. So this became, of course, the topic of that when the whole story came to light.
I wouldn't approve the release of classified information. Again, as I've said, I'm
not talking about classified information, Mr. Ratcliffe. I'm talking about information that has not been approved for public release.
A lot of the hearing sounded like that.
A strike on another country. Would you consider that classified information? I'm not talking about what happened this week.
There are other factors that would go into determining that classification.
Oregon Senator Ron Wyden calling for the resignations of the National Security Advisor and Secretary of Defense for using signal chat systems to talk about war plans in Yemen.
Obviously reckless, obviously dangerous. I'm of the view that there ought to be resignation, starting with the National Security Advisor and the Secretary of Defense.
Again, the Democrats seeing an opening here.
Both the mishandling of classified information and the deliberate destruction of federal records are potential crimes that ought to be investigated immediately.
The Oregon senator calling for a criminal investigation into the use of the public signal chat system to discuss those war plans. Of course, the Republicans in charge in the Senate, so he may not be able to get that criminal investigation. President Trump pardoning Hunter Biden's former business partner and friend Devin Archer yesterday.
I think he was treated very unfairly, and I looked at the records, studied the records, and he was a victim of a crime.
Archer served on the board of the Ukrainian energy company Burisma with Hunter years ago. In 2023, you'll remember he testified in front of a House committee about Hunter allegedly pushing the Biden family's brand and Vice President Joe Biden joining Hunter on personal business trip calls to close deals. Archer was convicted in 2018 of defrauding a Native American tribe and was facing a sentencing date, and he claimed former President Biden was going to pardon him before he testified. So now he's gotten that pardon from President Trump. President Trump yesterday ordering states to require proof of citizenship before voting.
On Tuesday, Trump signed an executive order demanding people provide documents proving their citizenship when they register to vote. The measure also threatens to withhold federal funding from states that don't comply. Election experts say Trump can't override a statute passed by Congress that lists the requirements of voter registration. They added that lawsuits on the issue are all but guaranteed. I'm Brian Shook.
We go from the White House over to Congress, where House Speaker Mike Johnson suggesting Congress has the power to eliminate some federal courts.
We do have authority over the federal courts, as you know. We can eliminate an entire district court. We have power funding over the courts and all these other things. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. So stay tuned for that.
Republicans in the White House upset about these federal judges that have ruled against the Trump administration in recent weeks. House Speaker noted the constitutional authority to give Congress to ordain and establish courts. Congress has eliminated some courts in the past, including the Commerce Court, that was back in 1913, the Court of Claims, and the U.S. Court of Customs and Patent Appeals. That was in 1982, so it's been done before.
One of the bills that I really like that's already been through committee was authored by Representative Darrell Issa, and that would limit the scope of federal injunctions, the ability of one individual judge to abuse the system.
WABC News Time, 5:13. Vice President Vance going to travel to Greenland on Friday. He made the announcement in a video posted on X last night.
I'm going to visit some of our guardians in the Space Force on the northwest coast of Greenland and also just check out what's going on with the security there of Greenland.
Now, you might remember the White House had announced that Vance's wife, Usha, would lead a delegation there. There was a lot of blowback from Greenland that she was coming, so maybe the vice president decided that he wanted to be with her, which was probably a good move. There's been backlash from Denmark, too. The vice president said that he joked about that he didn't want her to have all the fun without him. That's why he's going.
A lot of other countries have threatened Greenland, have threatened to use its territories and its waterways to threaten the United States, to threaten Canada, and, of course, to threaten the people of Greenland. So we're going to check out how things are going there.
And that's why the vice president believes there's great importance of Greenland's security.
And speaking for President Trump, we want to reinvigorate the security of the people of Greenland because we think it's important to protecting the security of the entire world.
President Trump has said he wants the U.S. to take control of Greenland. Vice President Vance will be on that trip with his wife come Friday. 5:15 now. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Hump Day. Good morning, Justin Ella.
Happy Hump Day. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. We will start here with some moderately big news out of the NFL, depending on how you feel about Russell Wilson. The Giants have reached an agreement with Super Bowl winning quarterback Wilson on a one-year deal worth up to $21 million, including $10.5 million guaranteed. The 10-time Pro Bowl selection had been in discussions with the Giants, Cleveland Browns, and Pittsburgh Steelers, but he is opting for New York, where he won a Super Bowl at MetLife as a member of the Seattle Seahawks. The agreement between Wilson and the Giants eliminates New York as a potential option this season for Aaron Rodgers, of course. It also leaves Rodgers and the Steelers, Wilson's former team, in a position to finally work out their own agreement. They've been in talks, obviously. The addition of Wilson comes just days after the Giants agreed to terms with Jameis Winston. Their quarterback room now consists of Wilson, Winston, and Tommy DeVito. Man, he's still hanging on by a thread in that Giants quarterback room. We'll go to the hardwood here at the Garden. Karl Anthony Towns had 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists for his first triple-double in more than 3 years, helping the Knicks defeat the Dallas Mavericks 128-113. OG Anunoby had 35 points, and Josh Hart added 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists for his ninth triple-double of the season. New York shot 59.6% and won its second straight. Hart and Towns became the first teammates in Knicks history to record a triple-double in the same game. Currently holding on to third place in the Eastern Conference, the Knicks will be right back out there tonight for a 7:30 p.m. tip-off against the visiting L.A. Clippers. Looking ahead to NBA action tonight, the Nets tip off at 7:30 p.m. as well, getting set to welcome in the Toronto Raptors. To the ice and the NHL, we go where the Rangers lost 3-1 to the Kings in Los Angeles. Another pretty empty effort out of the Blue Shirts. JT Miller scored for New York. Igor Shesterkin finished with 30 saves. The Rangers have lost 4 of their last 5 games. They've lost 8 of 11 to remain 1 point out of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Up next for the Rangers, they'll visit Anaheim come Friday. On the ice tonight, the Islanders will welcome in the Vancouver Canucks for a 7:30 p.m. puck drop, while the Devils simultaneously get underway in Chicago against the Blackhawks. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 519. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem set to tour an El Salvadorian prison today after it took hundreds of U.S. deportees.
She'll visit the terrorist confinement center, then later meet with President Nayib Bukele. Noem says the prison holds illegal immigrants that have alleged ties to a Venezuelan gang. El Salvador is the first leg of Noem's trip, which also includes stops in Colombia and Mexico. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Up to Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy wants to be the next governor there. He says the country and state has been a blessing to him and his family.
I'm filled with gratitude to our country and to our state. I've lived an American dream at a scale that my parents would have never imagined when they came here to Cincinnati 45 years ago.
He says Ohio has a lot of things going for it, like its location, but there are some changes to be made. Ramaswamy wants to bring Ohio to a zero-income tax state, wants to cap property taxes. Of course, you'll remember he ran for president last year, but dropped out of the race and then endorsed Donald Trump.
We have more people moving out of our state than in. We're one of the only red states that's in that category. That's got to change.
Yeah, it's one of these elections that's garnered a fair amount of candidates. He's probably one of the more well-known ones running in Ohio. Tesla sales taking a hit in Europe now. We've seen the hit here, of course, the vandalism as well. Correspondent Trent Murray reports sales of the electric car company plunged 43% in January and February from last year.
The figures come after CEO Elon Musk stirred controversy in recent months across European politics, endorsing the far-right AfD party in Germany and launching a series of online attacks against UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Market share is also down sharply. The decline comes as other EV manufacturers saw their sales rise by double digits. Murray reports that Europeans are just buying fewer Tesla vehicles.
Tesla continues to lose market share in Europe, with new official industry data showing that in January and February this year, the company sold 43% fewer vehicles when compared to the same period last year.
Now, of course, all this is thought to be connected to the fact that Elon Musk joined the White House campaign for President Trump. People who buy electric cars, they tend to be people who are worried about the environment and more liberal voters, not happy with Elon Musk taking it out on his car company. In some cases, of course, it's been vandalism. In this case, it's just sales.
Other manufacturers of electric vehicles, including Volkswagen and Renault, saw their sales rise by double digits. The data shows that last month, Tesla commanded just over 10% market share for EVs. That's down from almost 22% just 12 months ago.
521, we go from Europe over to the skies over California and Nevada. There were multiple reports that a bright light was seen streaking across Northern California in the Nevada sky Monday night. This is normally a story the overnight shows might cover, but in this case, Robert Lunsford, he's with the American Meteor Society. He says it was likely, he thinks, debris from the SpaceX Dragon mission last September flying through the sky, and that's what he thinks the bright light was.
Got a couple of sites that I rely on to see any predictions of space debris re-entering, and this particular satellite looks like it fits the bill.
So a satellite known as the Dragon Freedom 2 had been expected to re-enter Earth's atmosphere on Monday night. A streak of light captured on video did not appear to be Starlink satellites, which are not expected to pass over the region this week. The timing and the location of the most recent launch rules out it being a SpaceX rocket, so the thought is, seems like a smart one, that it was that Dragon Freedom 2. 523. Down to Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis says he's spoken with President Trump about moving NASA headquarters to the Space Coast. That was the subject of the bill that was filed by Florida's U.S. New attorney, Ashley Moody, and the governor was asked about it yesterday.
It fits right in with DOGE because right now they are planning on spending over $500 million to build a new NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. Their current headquarters has been vacant for 4 years. Like, literally, almost nobody shows up to this.
DeSantis says there's already an expansion underway at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, Cocoa Beach, and he believes that could save taxpayers $500 million and have people in the agency where the action already is. So have you ever been to the Kennedy Space Center? By the way, fantastic. If you're at all interested in space, it is a great place to visit. 523, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says she's encouraged after she and a delegation of her city council members met with California state lawmakers this week seeking funding to help in the recovery and rebuilding after the January wildfires.
We are fortunate to have the state legislature and governor that we do, and we are concerned because we don't know what awaits us from Washington, D.C.
Bask is asking for nearly $2 billion in emergency funding from the state. Among the plans for the money, $750 million for upgrading the power grid traffic signal system, $300 million for disaster recovery expenses, and $73 million for fire cleanup and recovery efforts. So many people affected by those wildfires.
The subcommittees in the Assembly and in the Senate that decide the budget that the governor put forward are meeting right now. So we want to make sure that L.A. City is included in that. We've been working lockstep with the county. The county was here last week, so we wanted to make sure that our voices were heard as well, which is why we're here.
524. A President Trump portrait at the Colorado State Capitol is no longer being displayed today after he complained that he looked purposely distorted in it. Now, it seems like it is a vain moment from the president, but, most people don't tend to like their pictures or portraits very much and have comments on them. In this case, the Colorado Senate president, the current Fremont County Commissioner, Kevin Grantham, who commissioned this portrait of the president back in 2019, apparently they put up presidential portraits in the state legislature, was seeking advice on what to do with this portrait now that it's been taken down since the president has complained.
Honestly, if he doesn't like it, and the governor is actually the one who kind of mentioned this to me to begin with, is maybe we just take it down and we look at getting a replacement.
Yeah, speaking of which, the picture of me connected to the NewsHour that's on the podcast page, that's a god-awful picture of me, but you don't hear me complaining. Well, I guess not till now. On Truth Social, Trump said he preferred not having a picture than having the one that was up. The artist. So everybody's trying to figure out the artist's intention. Sarah Boardman, that's her name. Did she purposely try to ruin the painting of the president because maybe she didn't like him? Well, she has not said anything since this controversy has begun. She had said something a number of years ago when she was asked about how she does portraits. She's done other presidential portraits, and she says, I paint the essence of a human being. That's what I do. Here's more from the commissioner who commissioned the painting from Sarah.
As far as I remember, she said she's a Republican and she was a Trump supporter.
Oh, so there you go.
So I don't think that she didn't have any ill will towards the president. In fact, quite the contrary. She wanted to make him look powerful.
Yeah, you should see what she did to the Barack Obama painting. Tax season is a busy time for scammers looking to steal your refund and identity.
Experts advise ignoring any emails and text messages about your taxes. They may be tricks to get your personal information.
Anything that says it's from the IRS, be wary. Remember, we don't just out of the blue contact you.
Luis Garcia from the IRS recommends protecting your identity by setting up an identity protection PIN. Use strong, unique passwords for each online account and never reuse passwords. Enable two-factor authentication whenever possible, and don't share your passwords with anyone. If you receive a letter, text, or email that looks like it's from the IRS, you can confirm its authenticity at irs.gov. I'm Dina Kodiak.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yep, that's me, 536. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 26. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds today. The high going to be 51. Tonight and overnight clear, low 34. And then sunshine on Thursday, high 52. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 40. Partly cloudy, Muncie up in Rockland County. 45, partly cloudy in East Brunswick over in New Jersey. And it's 43 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. Coming up on 537 now. Traffic, transit on the 7s. Here is Joe Nolan.
All right, Noam, from the RayCatina.com traffic desk again, still some delays in and out as you travel on the Gowanus BQE in both directions, right around 92nd Street. There was some road work there on the overnight on the inbound side, also on the outbound side. Looks like the inbound side is cleared. The outbound is not. So, again, as you head through there, there are going to be some minor delays. We're also looking at then a good day the rest of the way on. Just a little bit of a slowdown as you start to get up to the area, at least at this point, heading up towards the area of the Brooklyn Bridge. We're a little slow. No big deal. Inbound on the LIE yet. You're still slow around the Cross Island. Then again, coming into Queens Boulevard. Finally, slow traffic coming off of the Cross Island, getting onto the Belt Parkway on the westbound side. That just started. And then also, we have a little bit of a delay at the George Washington Bridge now. Looks like on that upper level, we're going to have a 5 to 10 minute delay. And then coming inbound at the Lincoln and Holland tunnels were wide open this morning without too much of a problem. Rest of New Jersey looks pretty good. Turnpike Parkway, all of that in good shape. 78, 287, Route 22, 206, all that in Central Jersey looks pretty good. Same thing on Route 1. Down the shore, no major difficulties. And then also, don't forget on Route, how can you? As you travel either way on Route 80 in both directions, right around exit 34, we have that full closure. No issues up to the north, Westchester, Rockland, Fairfield counties, everybody good. And again, don't forget, you continue to have delays now on the number 7 lines getting out to Flushing, that because of some equipment problems. Elevate your drive in a new 2025 Range Rover Velar. Enjoy exclusive 2.9% APR financing, up to 72 months for qualified buyers. Visit Land Rover Edison, Land Rover Marlboro, Ray Katina dealerships. I'm Joe Nolan with traffic on Talk Radio 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 538. We get this story every once in a while. A 39-year-old man died. His family sent the body back to his home of Guatemala for a funeral. And then they live streamed the funeral for people who could not make it back here in the U.S., some in Guatemala the same. And they were shocked to discover that it wasn't their loved one's body in the casket. Instead, it was a 96-year-old woman they did not know. The family says the body mix-up, of course, just adding to their overall grief of a young man dying.
It's very hard to be here. All I want is for them not to make the same mistake that they did with my husband.
Yeah, Lenore Valente of Elmhurst describing, she said, what was just an unspeakable situation after her 39-year-old husband, the father of 2 children, died suddenly last May. The funeral home in Corona, owned by the R.G. Ortiz Funeral Homes. They were supposed to transport his body down to Guatemala, but it was only during that live stream that they realized his body was not in the casket.
I think what they did was unforgivable.
Yeah.
It took a lot for me to say goodbye to him, only to realize I wasn't even saying goodbye to him. It was someone else.
It is crazy. So who was inside? It was a 96-year-old woman. Her name is Carmen Maldonado, which suggests that they had a casket somewhere where it was the wrong body. She was supposed to be in Ecuador, so how they made the mistake, it's not really clear, but the families involved, no surprise, now filing a lawsuit against Ortiz, but they're not the first. Last year, the city filed a claim against Ortiz and collected more than $700,000. The funeral home, no comment on this latest complaint. The law firm representing these 2 families says this is their 10th law case against Ortiz. Ortiz tends to cater to a high volume of clients who are come from limited options financially. So their lawyers are now, of course, hoping for a settlement that will ease the pain from these families. WABC News Time 540. Let's go up to the Bronx and a story we told you about yesterday that we have a few more details on this young imam who was attacked outside his mosque. This was in the Parkchester section of the Bronx. He walked out of his mosque Sunday night, 3 men wearing ski masks came up to him, started harassing him, tried to shove him into their car. Thankfully, the congregants in the mosque heard the dust-up outside. They went outside. An all-out brawl began between these 3 men and the congregants. The 3 men finally raced off. Now we know who the imam is. It's 22-year-old Omar Farouk. He says, I don't know who these people are. I did not know what they were talking about.
They were asking me some questions, and they showed me a picture of it. A picture of some people wearing ski masks, of course. And then I was like, no, it's not me. They basically pushed me around, and they started beating me up. They basically did the headlock, and they put half my body in there.
Yeah, he said it was really frightening. I imagine it was. The treasurer of the mosque was the first person to run out and break up the fight. He has some injuries to his nose from all the shoving and the eventual all-out brawl that began. Punches were thrown. These congregants, when the 3 got back into the car and tried to race away, they followed them for a block or 2.
I was just in shock. I was just like, what's even going on right now?
So now they're trying to figure out what the heck this is all about. Now, the NYPD says they think it's just mistaken identity, that they thought the imam was somebody else.
Message is, it is the house of Allah. Everyone come to on time to prayer.
I feel safe all the time. Around people, these people right here, I know they're my people.
Yeah, he's calling his fellow congregants heroes for coming to his aid. I guess they are. Police have arrested an 18-year-old now in connection to a stabbing that left a 27-year-old dead near the Barclays Center. You might remember the story. It was about 2 weeks ago. The man in custody, he's Noah Rentas, arrested, charged with second-degree murder, criminal possession of a weapon. The grieving mother of the victim, she decided she was going to follow around these proceedings. Even when he was carted out in his handcuffs, she was there to yell at him, "Why did you do this to my son?" Why he did it, that's still a mystery. But the motive for the attack on the 27-year-old Michael Hernandez outside the Barclays Center, still a mystery. Miranda, his mother, says she doesn't know who these group of teens are, doesn't know who Noah Rentas is now, who's behind bars.
And after they walked away, there was a second incident with the same group of kids. The only thing this time, my son walked away, stabbed up, and died right on the corner of Flatbush Avenue in Atlantic.
So police still searching for 3 other people who were involved in this attack on her son. Miranda says she won't rest until each one of them is brought to justice.
You were man enough to pick up a knife and stab my son to death. I want you to do time. We need to do better as a community for these young kids, because he just threw his whole life away. 18 years old, still in high school, could have become somebody.
Yeah, so hopefully, she says, not that it'll bring her a whole lot of comfort, she'll find out what the motive was behind these attacks. 544, the FDNY rescuing a man after a dumbwaiter he was working on fell on top of him. This was inside a building just a couple of blocks away from us, East 54th Street. Firefighters arrived on the scene. They got this 911 call. It was around noon yesterday that the dumbwaiter car in a shaft had fallen on this worker, and they were trying to figure out exactly how to get it off him without injuring him more than he already was.
Our initial plan was to lift up the dumbwaiter to get access to the patient, but once they started lifting up the dumbwaiter, it was kind of shaky and giving way, so we formulated another plan where they breached both sides of the walls.
You sort of imagine, the New York's bravest, and same for New York's finest. When they show up at these scenes, they have to figure out quickly what the heck's going on. So now dumbwaiter's on somebody, and you're trying to figure out how to get off of them. And they strategically figure it out, and they're able to get this thing off them.
A confined space is a manpower intensive operation. We had units securing the car itself. We had units breaching walls to get to access to the patient.
Yeah, and they got it off him. They strategized and got it off. The victim conscious, alert the entire time. He was rushed to a hospital, multiple trauma injuries. It's unclear how heavy that dumbwaiter was. I imagine it was very heavy. The incident, of course, now under investigation by the Department of Buildings. 545. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noel Maladen. We will start here with some news out of the NFL. The Giants have reached an agreement with Super Bowl winning quarterback Russell Wilson on a one-year deal worth up to $21 million, including $10.5 million guaranteed. So you know who will be under center for the G-men starting next year. The 10-time Pro Bowl selection had been in discussions with the Giants, Cleveland Browns, and Pittsburgh Steelers, but is opting for New York, where he won a Super Bowl in MetLife Stadium as a member of the Seattle Seahawks. The agreement between Wilson and the Giants eliminates New York as a potential option this season for Aaron Rodgers. It also leaves Rodgers and the Steelers, Wilson's former team, in a position to finally work out their own agreement as they've been in talks. The addition of Wilson comes just days after the Giants agreed to terms with Jameis Winston. Their quarterback room now consists of Wilson, Winston, and Tommy DeVito.
Sounds like a winning lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
How was Wilson last season? Was he under center for the Steelers or no?
Yeah, he was hurt to start the year, so he didn't play a complete season. He's usually a little bit more durable than that, but he was very inconsistent, and he ended the year on an extremely low note. I think he lost his last 5 games or something like that.
Oh, well, that's a reason to recruit him then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. And they were again, and his last 5 games were against, pretty solid teams, so he goes up against good competition and completely
fell apart.
Yeah, poops the bed, for lack of a better term there. So now you can picture that. On the
Thank
NBA,
you for that. Now I'm going to be thinking that the rest of the show.
On top of that, he's 36 years old. So it's like if you're the Giants, you want to start to kind of, rebuild this franchise a little bit. You got a young wide receiver 1 in Malik Neighbors, and you would ideally pair a younger quarterback with, that the rest of that core.
You would think.
So in terms of the long-term future for the Giants, this is not necessarily the best move. On the NBA hardwood at the Garden, Karl Anthony Towns had 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists for his first triple-double in more than 3 years, helping the Knicks defeat the Dallas Mavericks 128-113. They're still holding on to third place in the Eastern Conference. They'll be right back out there tonight for 7:30 p.m. tip-off against the visiting LA Clippers. Looking ahead to NBA action tonight, the Nets tip off at 7:30 as well, getting set to welcome the Toronto Raptors into Brooklyn. To the ice in the NHL, where the Rangers lost 3-1 to the Kings in LA. They remain 1 point out of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Up next for the Rangers, they'll visit Anaheim come Friday. On the ice tonight, the Islanders will welcome in the Vancouver Canucks for a 7:30 puck drop, while the Devils simultaneously get underway in Chicago against the Blackhawks. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 549. The Democratic primary here in the city for mayor, 14 weeks away now. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo way ahead in a new poll that came out yesterday. Mayor Adams comes in 4th in this poll.
I got a whole lot of gas still in the tank, and I'm looking forward to New Yorkers to get past the noise and say, let's look at the numbers.
The Honan Strategy Group has released new numbers showing 41% of Democrats would choose Cuomo right now. 18% would go for Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. 3rd place, City Comptroller Brad Lander, 8%. And all the way in 4th place, Mayor Eric Adams, just 6%.
Unlike Andrew Cuomo, who everyone in New York City knows, I started this race with, I would say, less than 1% of New Yorkers knowing who I was.
That's Mamdani, who, disappointed that his numbers aren't higher, but impressed that he's in 2nd place. City Comptroller Brad Lander here.
At this period in 2021, Andrew Yang was leading in the polls, and at this period in 2013, Anthony Weiner was leading in the polls.
Yeah, so he's not making much of it, Brad Lander. Cuomo's been avoiding reporters, but he had this to say about the race over the weekend.
None of them have any experience running anything as large or complicated as New York City.
Primary, of course, June 24th. Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani has raised millions of dollars, believes he has the momentum in the race right now to win the primary. That is, New Yorkers continue to respond to Mayor Adams staying in the race. It was on Monday he held a press conference where he said, yes, reporters kept asking, are you going to run? You haven't officially announced a campaign. Are you going to hire a campaign manager? Are you going to run as an independent? Well, he said no, he's going to run as a Democrat. So people in Midtown responding to that yesterday.
I just can't recall anything significant that he's done. So that would be the issue, I think. It's not like I'm not paying attention either. So
he didn't do anything wrong. Not that I know of. That bribery stuff, listen. They say worse stuff about Trump. He's the president.
9 candidates currently running in the Democratic primary. Adams, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, of course, the most famous.
To me, I think I would want Cuomo back. I mean, during the pandemic, he was a great leader for us. He was up front. His past is his past.
Well, he has a lot of experience with running the state, and it's generational.
Now, I do hear a fair amount of support for Adams amid all those voters there.
It's all politics, but he's not being honest with the people. This thing behind closed doors, I feel. Yes.
I think it's time for change, but I haven't really seen the other candidates to make a decision yet. So.
Mayor Adams has yet to conduct campaign events, but you can make an argument that every time he appears before the cameras, it is a campaign event because the cameras follow him because he's the current mayor. He also says Cuomo is in a bubble because he makes controlled appearances and that New Yorkers' minds might change when he starts answering questions from reporters. WABC News Time 5:52 out to Long Island. A Suffolk County man scammed and burglarized by two men who were posing as town workers in like those orange vests. Suffolk County police say the men knocked on this senior citizen's door claiming to be building inspectors from the town. They say the man in his 80s let them inside the house. This was around 5:30 on Monday. People in the neighborhood, police talking to News 12. Here's Suffolk County Police saying that this kind of scam is, been around for a long time and people fall for it.
They knocked on the door. They claimed to be building inspectors from the town, and they were let inside by the elderly gentleman who was home at the time.
Suffolk County Police talking to News 12. This took place Cadman Avenue in West Babylon. While they were inside the home, apparently, they were there for like 60 minutes. Check that. It was 30 minutes inside the home. While inside, they took about $10,000 worth of jewelry and other stuff. It wasn't realized it was gone until another family member came home and saw that the house had been picked through, and then got the whole story from this senior citizen, this 80-year-old.
They knocked on the door. They claimed to be building inspectors from the town, and they were let inside by the elderly gentleman who was home at the time.
There's a lot of construction workers around here with those vests on, so you think they're safe, but they're obviously decoy, disguise.
Yeah, we've done the story many times before. They say one of the suspects had a limp and a cane, and they both left in a dark Volvo SUV. Now, the key is if someone knocks at your door, you want to call whoever their company is to find out if they're legit. That's number one. Look at IDs. Number two, but you can always just tell them, you know what, I didn't know you were coming, and turn them away. That's probably the best move. Tell them, come back another time. Let your company first tell me that you're sending them so you know that they're legit. But I can tell you, I'm on a pretty busy street, and I have these people showing up at my door, too, a few times. I couldn't figure out what was going on, but I just closed the door on them. Up in the Hudson Valley, it was a very intense day yesterday. This 28-year-old Tyler Leclerc, whose family owns a local martial arts storefront, admitted to police that he had engaged in sexual acts with minors and sent them pornographic images. He was led into the courtroom in an orange jumpsuit yesterday, surrounded by court officers. Some of the family members who believe their children were victims of him were screaming at him as he was in this courtroom, saying, "How could you do this to our kids?"
It wasn't easy. It's very hard to deal with and to move on from, like finding a new school to go to and explaining things to your kids, and it's been difficult.
Leclerc's indictment includes 42 counts, 6 counts of criminal sexual act, 1 count of first-degree sex abuse, 17 counts of forcible touching, 18 counts of third-degree sex abuse.
Hopefully we'll find, closure, and everybody will be able to continue on. I just hope everybody heals.
Yeah. I mean, the hardest part, of course, explaining these kind of things to your kids. I've been in the same situation where someone's carted away and you got to explain the whole thing. It's awful. Prosecutors say the incidents happened between March of 21 and February of this year. The New York State Attorney General giving 23andMe customers next steps as the DNA testing company files for bankruptcy.
AG Tish James says 23andMe customers have a right to delete their genetic data and destroy DNA samples held by the company. It comes after the company filed for bankruptcy and announced it would sell its assets, but founder and former CEO Ann Wojcicki has said there will be no changes to how 23andMe stores and protects customer information. However, the Attorney General's office has given step-by-step directions for customers to permanently delete their data from the system, adding New Yorkers' genetic data is sensitive information that must be protected at all costs. I'm Jeff McKinney, 77 WABC News.
Talked about this a little bit yesterday, the popular summer concert at the Forest Hill Stadium in Queens. In jeopardy, but it's not 100% that these concerts have been canceled. The NYPD has rescinded the venue's sound permits following lawsuits from neighbors who have long complained about the noise, the crowds, and the trash from these concerts.
The amount of concerts has gone up and up and up and up, and there's no end in sight. Every time we bring our concerns
to the West Side Tennis Club and its tenants, they are belittled, dismissed, and they offer monetary solutions.
That's Matthew Mandel of the Forest Hills Gardens Corporation. More than a dozen concerts are planned for the summer, including Alabama Shakes, Fish, Leon Bridges, Black Keys, all scheduled between May and October. Queens Chamber of Commerce, though, siding with the stadium, which is owned by the West Side Tennis Club, saying it's outrageous that a handful of individuals are wielding outside influence to the detriment of the entire neighborhood. And they're saying these concerts should go on this summer, so it's not 100% clear that they've been canceled. A man that I've known for is it 25 years? It's almost 25 years, is turning 71 years old today. Happy birthday to Curtis Sliwa, who I will admit, because I know he listens every morning to the show, that I miss just a little around these studios. Yeah, I know, just a little.